Hey guys, welcome to, is it episode 45? We certainly are moving along at a clip. So the image you see on screen, I was going through, I've got literally tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of photos across several drives, and took a while to find this, not that long, but it was fairly difficult to find, but that is the Colosseum inside all. It looks like it's pretty um, user friendly in a way, right? Um, and you can see just how high this is. You can, if you look through those arches, you can see just how far you can see. Just do it like this. You can see how far you can see in the distance because you are several stories up, maybe 7 or 8 stories, I'd say, right? Maybe a bit less, 5 or 6. So, and I remember sitting here and you could sort of feel and hear the wind blowing and whistling uh, as well in this sort of space. So I'm going to show you guys a couple of, okay, Timmy. I'm going to show you guys a couple more photos and then we're going to jump right in. So we'll maybe just spend 5 minutes on photos. Is this the same one? So this is very close to the town center. It's actually in the town center. And you can just see how much attention goes into wall sculpture, whatever you can call it. I mean, do you have anything like that in your city? You can see there's that column that's in the center. Not sure if that's from Egypt or something like that, but often they are. In France, they brought it in. Yeah, so there's that. Uh, Hello to SM Kovalinsky. I know Stephanie made a quick appearance. Good to see you. Gloria, good to see you from uh, NYS. Is it NYS or should be NYC? Where's NYS? New York. Where's NYS? Was that a typo? Buffalo. Okay. Great architecture in Buffalo. As great as this, as detailed as this. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. That's kind of from the inside. That's from the other side of like a kind of a doorway entrance. You may remember I played you video and you saw those flags fluttering. Well, that is the that same facade in the sunlight. And again, you can see just how much detail goes into the outside. Look at that. Quite stunning. And that's, I think, what makes France such a beautiful country. It's one of the few countries that wasn't annihilated during the Second World War, right? Don't laugh, but this is my very humble accommodation in all. It's just basically a very small one-bedroom space. There's my Van Gogh hat from Portugal. There's my, that's a half Iron Man bag that I was carrying. What else? What else can I show you? Yeah, it actually smelled pretty badly in there. There's sort of a not a terribly nice smell, and sort of outside there was a bit of a sewery type smell. So that wasn't terribly nice. But I'm sure I was channeling Van Gogh because of the New York State. Okay. Channeling Van Gogh in terms of not having the best accommodation in the world. It was actually from these people that I was able to loan that mountain bike. that I used to cycle to Saint-Remy. This is the girl that helped me through the town center. There you can see my bags. I didn't tell her I was going to take this photo, so I sort of took it very impromptu. She told me she's actually a policewoman, so we had actually quite a lot to talk about. And then there's another view through the streets of Arles, right? And you can kind of get an idea what Van Gogh may have felt if you are there on your own and you're seeing that sort of thing. You're seeing a couple walking hand in hand, and it's all very nice. And then you think to yourself, well, I wish I could share this with someone. And so that's where we are right now. He wanted to share his experience with Paul. And so he'd invited Paul, and that's where we are now with the Van Gogh letters, where he writes to Theo and he says, I've been thinking about Gauguin, and look here, if he wants to come here, there is his journey, and there are 2 beds or 2 mattresses, which in that case we absolutely must buy. So he's already on his own behalf and on Paul Gauguin's behalf, and he hasn't even said he wants to come. He's already getting ready to buy, bedding and whatnot on Theo's expense account, right? A little presumptuous, some might say. But afterward, as Gauguin is a sailor, we shall probably manage to eat at home. The 2 of us will live on the same money that I now spend by myself. Now, that is, in a way, a subtle admission that he's got more than enough money. Do you agree? You know that I've always thought it idiotic the way painters live alone. You always lose by being isolated. So there's a rare admission that the loneliness is actually getting to him. He needs a friend. He wants some company. And if you think about that statement that he's making here with his ear attached, in reasonably good health, you can imagine how isolated he felt in the asylum. You can imagine how he felt a year later, surrounded by lunatics and sick people and strangers, and people screaming, day in and day out. If he was lonely in 1888, you can imagine how horrible, humiliated, isolated, and broken-hearted he must have been at the asylum. And it's within that heartbreaking situation that he paints one of the most incredible paintings in modern art history, Starry Night. Pretty incredible story. Anyway, he says, this is in reply to your wish to get him out of his trouble. You can't send him what will keep him going in Brittany, and me what keeps me going in Provence. So he's kind of saying, why don't you hit 2 birds with 1 stone and have us work together? But you may think it a good idea for us to share and fix a sum, say 250 a month. If every month, besides and in addition to my work, you get a Gauguin, that's kind of the same proposal he made to him. Provided that we did not exceed the sum, wouldn't it even mean a profit? Only Van Gogh would make would be brazen enough to make an argument like that. Anyway, besides, it has always been my idea to join hands with other people. So here's a rough draft of a letter to Gauguin, which I will write if you approve, with whatever changes that will doubtless have to be made in the phrasing. But this is how I wrote it first. Take the thing as a matter of business. That is the best way for everyone, and let's treat it squarely as such. Only seeing that you are not in business for yourself, you may perhaps see fit to let me take it upon myself and to let Gauguin join in with me as a comrade. Strange word, that, comrade. I judge that you wanted to help him, just as I myself am distressed at his being ill. And it's a thing that doesn't get better overnight. We cannot suggest something better than this, and others would not do so, much. As for me, it worries me to spend so much money on myself alone, but the only way to remedy it is for me to find a woman with money, or some fellows who will join me to paint pictures. So that seems to be where his headspace is. What is he supposed to do with his life? Well, he must either find a woman with money or some dude who can paint with him. And so it looks like he's choosing the latter. It's a bit of a concession there, isn't there? Lamtoon, welcome. Magical Mother, good to see you as well. Alina, Yvonne. Okay. He says, I don't see the woman, but I do see the fellows. If this will suit him, we must not keep him dangling. I find that very ironic because once they extend this offer, once they invite him, then he's going to keep them dangling. So it's quite ironic. He says, and this would be the beginning of an association, but now he's also coming south, will join us. And truly, I can see you at the head of an Impressionist society in France yet. So he's kind of got very deep ambitions, put together work for the World Fair and begin the studio in the south. And of course, all of this whole fairy tale is going to spectacularly implode within the next 6 months. He says, and if I can be of any use in getting them together, I would willingly look upon them as better artists than I. Well, that's easy to say, but when Gauguin is living with him in the Yellow House, then how do you think Van Gogh's going to handle that? Cornelia, welcome. Lisa, good to see you. Yeah, I know comrade means friend. It's just a very kind of Russian word, if you get my meaning. Anyway, you must realize how it vexes me to spend more than they do. I must find some arrangement more advantageous both for you and to them. It would be so in this case. Think it over carefully, but isn't it true that in good company you can live on little, provided you spend your money at home? Well, do you think that's going to be the case? Do you think he's going to spend less with Gauguin in the picture? What do you think? Perhaps the time will come when we shall be less harder, but I do not count on it. Well, that's the first very true statement is made. It would please me so if you had the Gauguins first. I'm not such a bad hand at cooking, but they have had more practice as they have done their military service, etc. With a handshake for you in regards to Koning, that's Theo's border. It's also a Dutch artist, I think. All the same, it is a satisfaction to you to hand him over in good condition, which is more than he might have been if you hadn't taken him in. It is satisfactory, too, that the Goupils have decided to take that hall you suggested. Ever yours, Vincent. Postscript, as Tierste come to Paris said, you must think things over very, very, very carefully before you start traveling. I think it is very likely that your place is in France. To prepare the way and to round off this letter, I wrote to Gauguin, but without saying a word of all this, only talking about work. And so here's a reference. This is not part of the letter. It just says, in a letter dated May 22nd, Gauguin had asked Theo's help. He had been living on credit at the inn at Pont Aven for 2 months already, and he did not see how he could extricate himself from his difficulties. This explains Vincent's plan to let him come to Arles. So Paul Gauguin, who's an ex-banker, also someone who walked out on his wife and several kids, is a very different kind of person and personality to Vincent van Gogh. He's kind of cerebral in a different way. He's sensitive in a different way, and he's, I think, very insensitive in certain ways. And so he is now getting seriously into debt, and he's now trying to think what the word is. He's now can't quite think of how to put it. He's putting himself at the mercy, throwing himself at the mercy of Theo to kind of bail him out, and Vincent is eagerly participating in that, all of which is going to be Vincent's undoing. We're going to see that, we're going to witness that. So this is quite interesting. What's actually the next letter? The next letter we deal with, it's actually the one after that, a letter from Theo to the Van Gogh family. I'm going to read this one first and then go back to the other two. It just gives you an idea what's going on in Theo's head, what's going on in Theo's heart, and, you know, what is going on with Vincent besides from Vincent. In other words, it's giving a different perspective on Vincent. Chelsea, good to see you. Susan Smith, yeah, it will backfire. Good to see you. Okay. So we're going back to the beginning of the year in terms of these excerpts. When he came here 2 years ago, that's a reference to Vincent. When he came here to Paris to stay with me, I had not expected that we would become so much attached to each other. For now that I'm alone in the apartment, there is a decided emptiness about me. That's something that's kind of quite surprising. You kind of get the sense that he is missing Vincent, even though they were arguing and at times not at each other's throats, but certainly not getting along very well. If I can find someone, I will. If I can find someone, I will take him in. But it is not easy to replace someone like Vincent. That's quite a compliment. It is unbelievable how much he knows and what a sane view he has of the world. Also, quite a compliment. If he still has some years to live, I'm certain that he will make a name for himself. Also, a huge compliment, right? And he's right. He was right about that. He could see the potential in his brother. And I think it's hard not to see potential on this side of history, reading this guy's letters, just how eloquent they are, how sharp he is, and how he is a man on a mission. Even though it's a doom mission in terms of his lifestyle, he is going to leave an incredible legacy. He goes on to say, through him, I got to know many painters who regarded him very highly. That's so interesting. He is one of the avant-garde for new ideas. That is to say, there's nothing new under the sun. And so it would be better to say for the regeneration of the old ideas, which through routine have been diluted and worn out. So he is, he's a very creative fellow at the end of the day. In addition, he has such a big heart that he always tries to do something for others. It's a pity for those who cannot understand him or refuse to do so. And I think that statement actually says a lot about the like I've written a book, The Murder of Vincent van Gogh, and part of that title actually refers to the fact that his story has been murdered. Who he really was, the real Vincent van Gogh has actually also been murdered, right? And I think that this statement that he's got such a big heart actually helps you understand what really happened during the ear incident. This thing that he has such a big heart also helps you understand why you would say, when the police came to him and he had a bullet wound, he said, "Don't blame anyone else. I did this." That's such a big heart. He's almost like a martyr figure, and that is exactly how Gauguin experienced him, as kind of a weird fellow who seemed to want to suffer and seemed to want to struggle and seemed to want to have this very humble pilgrim's life. And that's kind of what he's getting at with a big heart. It's a big heart he's a humanist. Van Gogh is a humanist. Yeah. Anyway, he goes on to say the young school of painting concentrates particularly on getting sunshine into their pictures, and you will easily understand that the grey days we were having offer few subjects for painting. Moreover, The cold made him ill. After the years of so much worry and adversity, really felt the need to be in a softer climate. So even his brother Theo is aware that he has been struggling with his health, right? He came to Paris with teeth problems and needing a dentist and ill. And then he left Paris still ill. And we all know what that illness was, right? Okay. The thing that we're kind of looking out for in these letters is just kind of slipped my mind. Just trying to yeah. So we were trying to get a sense of the other Vincent that we don't know about, that Vincent doesn't. Oh, the thing that we're looking out for in these letters is some mention of an inheritance. So let's see if we hear about that, and sort of talk about money. Let's see if that comes up. Okay, so 14th March 1888. Although I know little about it, I like hearing music, but the occasions to hear something good here are rare, unless one goes to the concert. Still, I went with Vincent a few times to listen to a Wagner concert before he left. We both liked it very much. You can see they're pretty cultured folks, pretty cultured guys, right? It still seems strange that he's gone. He has lately meant so much to me. It's quite a different impression we have now of their relationship compared to when they were actually living together. Soon the studio will be occupied again by a young Dutch painter, but he has by no means Vincent's talent, although he's not bad. Shall we have a quick look at Koening's art, see if we can find something? I'm going to show you some more photos of Aal a little bit later. So just to give you an idea what is possible, this artist died in 1945. So 55 years after Van Gogh died and after Theo died, this artist died. 55 years later, pretty incredible. So he also painted in the Impressionistic style. He loved nature. Oh, we're going to see. So here's some of his art. Quite nice, right? That's not terribly good, but this is the artist that was that took Vincent's place when Vincent moved out, who was living with Theo. So whenever he says regards to Koenig, well, that's what that's about. So here is a possible group picture of Van Gogh taken in 1887. That's Paul Gauguin over there. I think that's Van Gogh over there. I'm not sure which one is Emile Bernard. That could even be Paul Gauguin. I'm not quite sure. It's either this dude or that dude. Let's have a look here. Believed to be joining Van Gogh, Gauguin, and Bernard at the table of Dutch artist Arnold Koenig, politician Felix Duval, and Jules' brother Andre Antoine. I just don't really tell you who is who, though. So I guess you'll have to kind of guess. But that could be Van Gogh in the middle there. I don't think that's him. I don't think that's him. And I don't think that is him. But I think that might be Van Gogh. One of these two are Paul Gauguin. You can see they kind of into their pipe smoking. So yeah, I'd really be interested to know which of these two is Paul Gauguin. I wonder if it's not this one with the thing around his head. Okay. If this is Vincent van Gogh, it's one of the few photos of him. Okay. At the end of the month, an exhibition will be opened with 3 of Vincent's paintings on view. So, wow, there's already an exhibition taking place. He does not attach much importance to this exhibition, but here, where there are so many painters, it is essential to become known. And an exhibition is, after all, the best thing for that. So this is now jumping ahead. I don't know if I want to go this far into the future, but anyway. A letter from Theo to Will, December 1888. He doesn't have a penny and his life is thus far from easy. I don't think that's a reference to Van Gogh. It's a reference to someone else. I don't know how he would be able to make ends meet if he didn't have that good fellow De Haan. He's very busy painting portraits, especially in order to make some money for models. As far as their brains are concerned, both are very clever people. So that's not really, that's talking about a different artist. Now we're getting very close to the, what's the word? The critical mass period. 12th December 1888. Letter from Gauguin to Theo. Dear Mr. Van Gogh, dear Monsieur Van Gogh, I would appreciate it if you would send me part of the money for the canvases you've sold. So at this point, he's actually sold. This venture's been successful. Gauguin has sent, some of his art to Theo, and now he's sold it. Then he says, everything considered, I am obliged to return to Paris. Vincent and I simply cannot live together without trouble due to the incompatibility of our characters, and we both need tranquility for our work. Now, 2 weeks after this letter, Vincent would lose his ear. Right? 2 weeks after this letter was written by Gauguin, Vincent would lose his ear. And so here he's acknowledging, we can't live together. There's trouble between us. We're incompatible. We both need tranquility. Then he says, he's a man of remarkable intelligence. I esteem very highly, and I leave him with regret, but I repeat, it is necessary. I much appreciate the thoughtfulness of your conduct with regard to me, and I hope you will excuse my decision. And then 9 days later, Theo announces his engagement. So that's what Theo is kind of preoccupied with during this period of deterioration with Vincent. And you can almost imagine his younger brother getting engaged. Does Vincent get drunk because he's celebrating Theo's good fortune, or does he get drunk because he feels sorry for himself, or both? So can you see how things are going to be building up over the next couple of months? So he says, my dearest little mother, I recently wrote to you when I had met my friend De Haan that I sometimes had the feeling as if something was being sent to me, but now it is something even more important. Imagine a few days ago I met Jo Bonga here. What was I to do? We stopped to talk to each other, and she asked me if she might have a word with me. First, she wanted to know if I thought that it was her fault that I was no longer on good terms with Andre, that's her brother. From one thing came the other, and gradually we became so familiar that I thought there would be no harm in looking upon her as a friend. And so she and her brother and I became good friends again. But, mother, that was not possible. I loved her too much. And now, after we had seen much of each other over the last few days, she has told me that she loves me too, and that she wants to have me just as I am. She wants to have me just as I am. In a way, I'm afraid that she's mistaken about me and that I will disappoint her, but oh, I'm so happy, and I'll gladly try to understand her and make her happy, if I can. Admit I do believe that she knew beforehand that I still loved her, And now, my dearest mother, I must ask you to give her your loving mother's heart too, and to help us both with your experience and your advice to become good people, as is our duty. She can learn a lot from you and wants to, and from the bottom of our hearts, we both wish to do what is good. It is impossible for me to leave here, otherwise, I would have come with her to you and her parents. Now I have to rely on a letter, but I hope to come to Holland the first days of January. I've written to her parents today too, and she encloses a word for you here. And then he writes to his sister. This is coming very, very close to the air incident. So these were his plans. His plans were to go in the opposite direction to, you know, talk to his family about what is going on. So 2 days before Christmas, right at the end of this year, he says to his sister, "Dearest Liz, you are one of the first whom I want to tell a very great piece of news, which will cause a great change in my life and which makes me incredibly happy. The question is that I'm engaged to Joe Bonga. When I write this down so simply, I still cannot imagine that it is true. Such a short time after I'd exclusively in my mind that it would be forever impossible. I can't tell you precisely how it came about, as I really don't know myself anymore. She's been staying with her brother for the last 4 weeks and was on the point of leaving when I met her. We started to see more of each other, and I soon came to the conclusion that I loved her just as much as before." So he had actually been in love with her previously, and I was falling in love with her again. So it's quite amazing how one of the Van Gogh brothers just suddenly falls in love, and that's it. That's it for him. Um, I don't really want to go backwards, but we haven't dealt with these two letters. I want to try and deal with them briefly. This is a view of all sketch. And so he says here, it's a fairly short letter. He says, "My dear Theo, if the role is not too big to be accepted by the post, you'll receive another big pen drawing, which I would very much like the Pissarros to see if they come on Sunday. I've just received part of the paints order. Thanks very much." He says, "You can go by diligence. It is 50 kilometers from where you cross the Camargue grass plains, where there are herds of fighting bulls and also herds of little white horses, half wild and very beautiful. We heard of the wild horses of the Camargue. Well, this is the area that they found it. I'm taking especially whatever I need for drawing. I must draw a great deal for the very reason you spoke of in your last letter. Things here have so much line, and I want to get my drawings more spontaneous, more exaggerated." Right? So that's what he wants. He wants to exaggerate. That's kind of part of the post-impressionism. That's part of the stepping into expressionism. Aloha, welcome. Good to see you here. Traveling beats you up, and above all, it disturbs the brain more than can be good for you. Uh-oh. Anyway, I feel that I'm to blame for it and tell myself that it is my need for money that is driving you to it. No, it's not right. Then I say to myself that we can begin to hope that in a little while I shall sell 1 or 2 pictures a month. So one of the things we kind of want to start looking out for is, does Theo tell Vincent about his love life? Does he tell him? If he does, when and how much? Or does he sort of feel like, I don't want him to really know about it? What do you think? How do you think he handles that? Okay, so then he says, "I've written to Gorgon and said only that I was sorry we were working so far from one another, and that it was a pity that several painters did not combine for one campaign. We must count on this dragging on for years perhaps before the Impressionists have a steady value, and so we must consider that helping him will be a lengthy business. But he has such great talent that being associated with him would be a step forward for us." What is pretty incredible is today, Paul Gauguin is in the top 4 most expensive artists of all time. Is even higher than Van Gogh. It's slightly higher than Van Gogh. I just want to go back to that list. I know we looked at it. I just want to see what is the most expensive. What's the most expensive Van Gogh at the moment? Just want to quickly revisit that. So there is it's worth 240 million from Paul Gauguin, right? That painting. I'm just trying to see the most expensive Van Gogh. Oh, it still is the portrait of Dr. Gachet. Still is that. I wonder if that's ever going to be trumped. Then you've got a Jackson Pollock, which is a American artist, right? And that's being held at I think the Art Institute of Chicago. Rembrandt is over here. And then Rembrandt again, there's a Picasso over there. What's after? There's a Paul Cézanne. And so this is the next expensive Van Gogh. Portrait of Joseph Rouland. And then irises. So it looks like his portraits are some of his most expensive artworks. Quite interesting. Personally, I prefer his landscapes, just my personal opinion. Okay. I was quite serious when I first told you that if you like, I will go to America with you, provided that it would be a good long stay and would be worth the trouble. So can you believe it? They actually, it's like he's gone to the south of France, and now it's like, and they Dutchman, and now it's like maybe we should go to America. I'm not sure when did New Amsterdam become New York. I think it was fairly early. I think it's before this, 1664. Yeah, so it's long since become or ceased to be a Dutch enclave. We must try not to become ill. If we do, we are more isolated than, for instance, the poor concierge who has just died. These people have their own set and see the comings and goings of the household and live in foolishness. Given the physique we have, we need to live with our own crowd. Enclosed is a line of farewell to Koning. I must get some stuff done that might persuade somebody like Thomas, for instance, to join you in sending people who would go to work down here. In that case, I think that Gauguin would be sure to come. Then he says, it would be a great risk to take Gauguin, but we must aim at this. Well, he's right about that. It was taking a great risk. Okay, so another letter, the last one from May. From Vincent to A.H. Koning, that's the artist living with Theo. My dear friend Koning, having heard from Theo that you're going back to Holland, I want to write you a few farewell words. I take it that you have managed to see the Impressionists. You'll have quite a lot to tell those fellows in Holland about what you've seen in Paris. Well, he would know because he's the same thing. He's come from Holland, seen the Impressionists, like, whoa, something is going on here. I was much pleased to hear from Theo that you're in good health. We can hardly do without it in our kind of work. Tomorrow I'm going to, so and this is going to be, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that, but this is going to be the focus of a lot of these letters in June. So it's now kind of almost going into summer, midsummer. And so he goes to the coast. And what does he do at the coast? He's going to be painting the beach and boats and seagulls and so on. And so, a little bit of R&R, except with a paintbrush. And he says, I'm going to look at the blue sea and the blue sky. In the meantime, I'm getting rather sunburned. People here are sunburned yellow or orange and now and then red ochre. It rather surprises me that I've not yet heard whether the exchange of our pictures will come off. I hope it will. I've just finished a drawing, even larger than the first two, of a cluster of straight pines on a rock seen from the top of a hill. Behind this foreground, a perspective of meadows, a road with poplars, and in the far distance, the town. The trees very dark against the sunlit meadow. Perhaps you will get an opportunity to see this drawing. I did it with very thick reeds on thin Whatman paper, and in the background I worked with a quill for the finer strokes. I can recommend this method to you, for the quill strokes are more in character than those of the reed. I'm very pleased to hear that you have been able to see my first consignment. I hope there will be some Marines in the next one. I think that's a reference to sea scenes. And after that, the figure. This is what I'm aiming at. Only it seemed to me that walking and working in the open air would be better for my health, and I did not want to start on the figure before feeling stronger. Well, old fellow, I know I shall often think of our meetings in Paris, and I do not doubt we shall hear from you as soon as you are back in Holland. It is an excellent thing that you're returning in good health and good spirits. And I mean, like I said earlier, he definitely did have robust health. He went on to live to 55 years longer than Van Gogh. I'm just trying to get that. Is it here? Yeah, it's over here. You know, he lived to be. That's the artist Arnold Koenig. So we know for sure that that's Arnold Koenig. That's probably Vincent. I suppose it could even be Theo. And then I don't know who these two dudes are. I think that is Bernard and that is Gauguin somehow. So these are some other paintings by him. But yeah, he died in 1945. You know, 55. He lived 55 years longer than both Van Goghs. He lived to be 85 years old, which is more than twice the age of the Van Goghs. The Van Goghs didn't even get to 40, neither of them. This guy lived more than twice their age, 85 years old. And you kind of got to ask why. And I think the main difference is lifestyle, right? Lifestyle. But I mean, just think about it. The Van Goghs lived fast, died young. Seems like both of them did. And de Kooning or Hendrik Kooning lived long, but he didn't, did he produce anything that was really that earth-shattering? That's a nice picture, but it's you're not gonna fall off your chair. Okay. So let's go to June and to the coast. Let's go on holiday. So these are some of the pictures he paints. Seascape at Santes Maries. You can kind of imagine there's a beach, and here is an artist standing there in his suit painting, whatever he's seeing. Here's another scene. Looks quite merry. Look at all of those boats. You can see he's very much enjoying the sunshine. He's trying to figure out what to do with all that yellow. And then here is view of Saint Marie. Looks a bit like the Abbey, but anyway. So he says, "Dear Theo, I'm writing to you from Stes Maries on the shore of the Mediterranean. The Mediterranean has the colors of mackerel, which is a kind of fish. The Dutch definitely know their fish. Changeable, I mean. You don't always know if it is green or violet. You can't say it's blue because the next moment the changing light has taken on a tinge of pink or gray. Imagine seeing everything just through the filter of color. A family is a queer thing, quite involuntary, and in spite of myself, I've been thinking here between whiles of our sailor uncle, who must have seen the shores of the sea many a time. I brought 3 canvases and have covered them. 2 marines, a view of the village, and then some drawings which I'll send to you by post when I return to Hull tomorrow. It's a very quick trip to the coast. I board and lodging for 4 francs a day, and they began by asking 6. So Vincent has given himself a little bit of a, I don't know if it's a weekend break, but he's given himself a little bit of a holiday. He says the shore here is sandy, neither cliffs nor rocks, like Holland without the dunes, and bluer. I think also warmer. You get better fried fish here than on the Seine. Only fish is not available every day, as the fishermen go off and sell it in Marseille. But when there is some, it's frightfully good. Nothing like fresh sea fish. If there isn't, the butcher is not much more appetizing than the fella butcher of Monsieur Jerome's. If there's no fish, it is pretty difficult to get anything to eat, as far as I can see. I do not think there are 100 houses in the village or town. The chief building, after the old church and an ancient fortress, is the barracks. And the houses, like the ones on our heaths and peat bogs in Drenthe, you will see some specimens of them in the drawings. I'm forced to leave my 3 painted studies here, for of course they are not dry enough to be submitted with safety to 5 hours jolting in the carriage, but I expect to come back here again. Well, so he paints these pink pictures and he's kind of got to leave them there. Next week, I'd like to go to Tarascon to do 2 or 3 studies. If you have not written yet, I shall naturally expect a letter at all. A very fine gendarme, that's a French policeman, came to interview me here, and the curé too. The people can't be very bad here, because even the curé looked almost like a decent fellow. I'm not sure what that's a reference to. Let's have a quick look. Is it a priest? Can it be? Yeah, well, it seems like it's a priest. Okay. So that's really gives you an idea what he thinks of the job that his father used to do, right? Next month it'll be the season for open air bathing here. The number of bathers varies from 20 to 50. Can you imagine Vincent van Gogh bathing? I'm not sure if I can. I'm staying till tomorrow afternoon. I still have some drawings to do. One night I went for a walk. So here's a little bit of a anecdote just that takes us into his life. One night I went for a walk by the sea along the empty shore. It was not gay, but neither was it sad. It was beautiful. The deep blue sky was flecked with clouds of a blue deeper than the fundamental blue of intense cobalt, and others others of a clearer blue, like the blue whiteness of the Milky Way. So can you see he's not just looking at stars, he's not just looking at tiny pinpricks of light, he's seeing the Milky Way. He's aware of the Milky Way. He talks about the blue depth, the stars were sparkling, greenish, yellow, white, pink, more brilliant, more emeralds, lapis lazuli, rubies, sapphires. Um, The sea was very deep ultramarine, the shore a sort of violet and faint russet as I saw it, and on the dunes, they were about 17 feet high, some bushes Prussian blue. You kind of get the sense that he's very entranced by the sparkling sky at night. He's seeing diamonds, he's seeing rubies, he's seeing little swirling universes, right? Um, Yeah, that's a good point, Stephanie. He's making progress. Anyway, he says besides half-page drawings, I have a big drawing, the pendant of the last one. Goodbye for the present, only I hope with a handshake. Ever yours, Vincent. Okay. I don't think we're going to make it through this whole month, but let's see how far we can get. Let's try and get to mid-month. This is a short letter, 5th of June. My dear Theo, if Gorgan is agreeable and if there's only the difficulty of removal to get over before we get going, it would be better not to keep him dangling. Well, again, he's going to be keeping them dangling, especially Vincent. So I've written, though I've hardly had time as I have 2 canvases on the easel. If you think the letter clear enough, send it. If not, in case of doubt, it's better to do nothing. And whatever you do for him must not upset your plan of sending for our sister, and above all, your own needs and mine. For if we cannot keep ourselves in good condition, how can we pretend to lend a hand in another person's difficulties? But now we are actually on the way to a sound, strenuous life, and so if possible, let's do the work that is nearest. I sent enclosed a sample of canvas for Tassay, but I do not know whether I should go on with this canvas. If you send me the next set on Sunday morning, I shall probably take myself off that day to Saint Marie to spend a week there. Wow, he's going back for a week. Wow, he's really letting his hair down. Maybe he wants to bathe, right? I'm reading a book on Wagner, which I will send you afterward. What an artist. One like that in painting would be something. It will come. Okay. Then he provides this postscript. I believe in the victory of Gauguin and the other artists, but it's a long time between then and now. And although he may have the luck to sell 1 or 2 canvases, it would be just the same. Meanwhile, Gauguin may croak. I think that's not very nice way of saying die. He may die disheartened. It is bad that he's not working, but we shall see what his answer is. Anyway, let's go on to the next one. So here are some more. So he goes back to this seaside town and he paints that. That's not bad. I really like how crisp that is. You can see that once again he's adopting the Japanese style. It's a very Japanese type execution there. See if we can get a better version of this particular picture. See if we can do better than that. Not sure if we can. It's like really weird how varied the colors are. You look at the one and you look at one and it looks like this. All right. And then you look at another one and it looks like this. Could that be the same? Maybe it's not the same. Similar. Quite different though. Quite interesting how he makes this so vivid and then this is so dull. One thing that seems to be missing from this painting, if you look at the picture behind me, let me bring it up so you can see it. If you look at the brush strokes here, all of these fine lines and dots, right? That's missing from this. You don't really have that here. There's a little bit of it there, some speckling, but it's a totally different style. And then he paints that other picture, he paints that in the same month. You wouldn't really think so. I honestly think this is one of his best pictures ever. Let me take myself out of the picture. Don't you agree? It's a really beautiful picture. And that's the Abbey de Montmayor in the corner there. And there you get a good idea of how high those mountains are that I had to cycle over. That gives you a really good idea. Okay, let's continue. Right, so he says, many thanks for your kind letter and the 50 franc note. All the same, Gauguin must have written. The worst of it is this blasted journey. So how do we get Gauguin from Brittany, which is in the north, to the south of France? Now that I've seen the seer, I'm absolutely convinced of the importance of staying in the Midi and are positively piling it on, exaggerating the color. Africa not so far away. I'm sending you by the same post the drawings of Stes Marie. I'm not quite sure how to say it. I wonder where Bria is. We're not seeing much of her, right? It is maybe a little bit late. Anyway, he says, I made the drawing of the boats just as I was going to leave very early in the morning, and I'm working on the picture after it. So maybe this is this color because it's very early in the morning. Could that be it? Is that a morning sky? And so here are some other sketches, 3 cottages. I don't know if these are fishermen's cottages. You get this same kind of architecture in South Africa. We call it Cape Dutch architecture. My grandfather painted it quite a lot. White gables and then thatched roofs, and typically used by farmers and fishermen. This reminds me of a scene in Auvers-sur-Oise, funny enough, this one. And I'm not sure where this is. Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't seem to be there. Okay. Then he says, it was before the boats cleared off. I'd watched it all the other mornings, but they leave very early. I didn't have time to do it. I have 3 more drawings, which I still need and which will follow these. They are rather harsh, but I have some more carefully drawn ones. I'll send you a batch of paintings rolled up as soon as the marines are dry, the sea scenes are dry. Did you ever see such nerve as that of those idiots in Dordrecht? The arrogance of them. They will be good enough to condescend to Degas and Pissarro without ever having seen a scrap of their stuff, mind you, any more than of the others. But it is a very good sign that the young ones are furious. Perhaps it's a proof that there are older ones who have praised the stuff. About this staying on in the South, even if it is more expensive, consider we like Japanese painting. We have felt its influence. All the Impressionists have that in common. Then why not go to Japan? That is, say, to the equivalent of Japan, the South. Only it's bad policy to stay alone when 2 or 3 could help each other to live cheaply. I wish you could spend some time here. You would feel it after a while. One's sight changes. So in a way, he's saying to his brother, I wish you were here. You see things with an eye more Japanese. You feel color differently. And I was actually, I was cycling with my brother earlier today. By the way, Stephanie, you're going to like this. We cycled by a giraffe. He was actually in the middle of the road at one point, so you saw him from hooves to horns, right? And I asked my brother, have you seen Loving Vincent? And we were just talking about how any other artist, could be Cezanne or Pablo Picasso or whatever, if they had to try and animate their art, it wouldn't work. It would just be flat. Even with Monet, it wouldn't really work. But you can animate Van Gogh because he builds into his art, especially his later art, he builds into it not only emotion, but motion. He's trying to animate his painting. That's what all those lines are, those energy lines. When you see Starry Night, he's not trying to paint a static scene, he's trying to paint a fluid scene. He's trying to paint the sky in motion. And so it's not very hard to animate. And you really get a sense of as I say, the mistral winds blowing, the landscape alive, activated, energized, electrified when you see, for example, Loving Vincent, right? So what I'm trying to say is you can say, oh yeah, I see what he's trying to do. He's trying to put energy into his paintings, but you actually feel that energy you experience that energy when you watch, for example, Loving Vincent, where they animate. It's the first ever animated oil painting movie, and you can just see how it flows in a very authentic way. Yep, that's it. Okay, so let's continue. The Japanese draw quickly, very quickly, like a lightning flash, because their nerves are finer, their feelings simpler. So he's obviously quite inspired by them. I'm convinced that I shall set my individuality free simply by staying on here. So yeah, that is what he's going to do. He's also, someone's going to set his ear free. I've only been here for a few months, but tell me this, could I in Paris have done the drawing of the boats in an hour? Not even with a perspective frame. And this one is done without measuring, just by letting my pen go. So he's starting to feel himself improving, is becoming the artist, is finding himself. So I tell myself that bit by bit, expenses will be balanced by the work. I should like to earn a lot of money so as to get good artists down here. So that's a bit of a change from the Vincent van Gogh of the Borinage, who wasn't interested in money. And it's like Theo saying, "Oh, I'm going to send you 50 francs. No, 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 I'm going to send it back. I only need 5 francs or whatever." Do you remember that? It says, instead of leaving them shivering in the mud of the Petit Boulevard, as too many of them do. Fortunately, it is very easy to sell nice, polite pictures in a nice, polite place to a nice, polite gentleman. Now the great Albert has given us the recipe. Every difficulty has disappeared by magic. One only has to go to the Rue de la Paix, stroll about ostentatiously for that express purpose, the complete art lover. If Gauguin came here, he and I might go to Africa with Bernard when he goes to do his military service. Interesting. And I think when they talk about that, he's actually talking about Madagascar, which is a biggish island off Mozambique, which is just north of South Africa, the South African east coast. What have you settled about our sister? Anquetin and Lautrec, I think, will not like what I'm doing here. There's been an article, it seems, in the Revue Independent on Anquetin, which called him the leader of a new trend in which the Japanese influence is even more apparent. I've not read it, but anyway, the leader of the Petit Boulevard is undoubtedly Surat, and young Bernard has perhaps gone further in the Japanese style than Anquetin. Tell them that I've done a picture of boats. That and the Pont de l'Anglais could go to Anquetin. What Pissarro says is true. You must boldly exaggerate the effects of either harmony or discord which colors produce. That's also something my brother was really emphasizing. He was just saying how what an incredible picture that picture of the night cafe in Arles actually is. We're not there yet. I think I've actually got a photo of the inside of it. A photo. We're not there yet, but yeah, my brother was really like, that's actually incredible picture. But also what he says about it in his letters is also quite incredible. But anyway, yeah, he says, you must boldly exaggerate the effects either of harmony, exaggerate the harmony, or exaggerate the discord, but exaggerate whichever way you do it. He says, it is the same as in drawing. Drawing, accurate color is perhaps not the essential thing to aim at, right? He's saying it doesn't have to be an accurate drawing, it doesn't have to be accurate color. Because the reflection of reality in a mirror, if it could be caught, color and all, would not be a picture at all, no more than a photograph. So there you have him basically saying, we've got to add something, we've got to interpret, otherwise it's no good, it's no better than a photo. There you have it, really, in a nutshell. It's really interesting seeing him address it as frankly as he does. Carmel says Vincent at this time is very animated. Yeah, he is making a lot of future plans, which is why all of those plans coming to a sudden stop is going to be so jarring for him. It's going to be very, very jarring. He's starting to fly in a way. He's starting to find his feet, find his wings, and that's all about to come to a very abrupt end. Okay, so let's deal with this. This is a letter to Emile Bernard. He says, more and more, it seems to me that the pictures which must be made so that painting should be holy itself and should raise itself to a height equivalent to the serene summit which the Greek sculptors, the German musicians, and the writers of French novels reached are beyond the power of an isolated individual. So they will probably be created by groups of men combining to execute an idea held in common. That's quite interesting. So this is kind of what his letters are looking like, and that's quite interesting. That's like that's kind of the equivalent of a hot chick in a bikini in June 1888. You know, that's like uh, playmate of the month, right? And then here's another one. Must I quite like just these simple lines that denote the sea and the waves. You know, that is an artist that knows what he's doing. Here's another one. So he doesn't just paint paintings, he writes letters with sketches in them. And here is another one. Okay. And I think we've seen that one before. Okay. So he says, more and more, this is to Bernard, more and more it seems to me that the pictures which must be made so that painting should be holy, okay, I've read that. One may have a superb orchestration of colors and lack ideas. Another one is crammed full of new concepts, tragically sad or charming, but does not know how to express them in a sufficiently sonorous manner because of the timidity of a limited palette. All the more reason to regret the lack of cooperative spirit among the artists who criticize and persecute each other, fortunately without succeeding in annihilating each other. You will say that this whole line of reasoning is banal. Well, so be it. However, the thing itself, the existence of a Renaissance, this fact is certainly no banality. A technical question. Just give me your opinion on it in your next letter. I'm going to put the black and white, just as the color merchant sells them to us, boldly on my palette and use them just as they are. When, and observe that I am speaking of the simplification of color in the Japanese manner, when in a green park with pink paths I see a gentleman dressed in black and a justice of the peace by trade, the Arab Jew in Daudet's Tartarin calls this honorable functionary Zhu de Pai, whatever that is, over him in the park a sky of a simple cobalt, then why not paint the said whatever with ordinary bone black and the intransigent with simple quite raw white? For the Japanese artist ignores reflected colors and puts the flat tones side by side with characteristic lines marking off the movements and the forms. In another category of ideas, when, for instance, one composes a motif of colors representing a yellow sky, then the raw, hard white of a white wall against the sky may be expressed, if necessary, in a strange way by raw white, softened by a neutral tone. For the sky itself colors it with a delicate lilac hue. Can you imagine? Can you imagine ever getting a letter like this? Can you imagine getting a letter? Have you ever received a letter, anything like this, where someone is suggesting how to combine colors, just that, with so much detail, with so much description. Furthermore, imagine in this so naive landscape, which is reasonable, a cottage whitewashed all over, the roof too, standing in an orange field. Certainly orange, for the midi sky and the blue Mediterranean provoke an orange tint that gets more intense just as the scale of blues gets more vigorous tones. The black note of the door, the windows, and the little cross on the ridge of the roof produce a simultaneous contrast of black and white, just as pleasing to the eye as that of blue and orange. To take a more amusing motif, let's imagine a woman in a black and white check dress in the same primitive landscape with a blue sky and an orange soil. That would be a rather funny sight, I imagine. In all, they often do wear black and white checks. Suffice it to say that black and white are also colors, for in many cases they can be considered as colors, for their simultaneous contrast is as striking as that of green and red, for example. The Japanese make use of it for that matter. They express the matte and pale complexion of a young girl and the piquant contrast of the black hair marvelously well by means of white paper and 4 strokes of the pen, not to mention their black thorn bushes starred all over with 1,000 white flowers. At last I have seen the Mediterranean, which you will probably cross sooner than I shall. I spent a week at Saint Marie, and to get there, I drove in a diligence across the Camargue with its vineyards, moors, and flat fields like Holland. There, we saw girls who reminded one of the Cimabue and Giotto, thin, straight, somewhat sad, and mystic. Quite an interesting description. On the perfectly flat, sandy beach, little red, green, red, blue boats, so pretty in shape and color that they made one think of flowers. A single man is their whole crew, for these boats hardly venture on the high seas. They are off when there is no wind and make for the shore when there's too much of it. Gorgarden, it seems, is still sick. I'm very eager to know what you have been working at lately. I myself am still doing nothing but landscapes. Enclosed a sketch. I should also very much like to see Africa, but I hardly make any definite plans for the future. It will all depend on circumstances. So it's almost like you kind of get the idea, with a flick of a coin, he may have gone to America, or with a flick of a coin, he may have gone to Africa. You know, with a flick of a coin, he may have ended up in your neighborhood, and flick of a coin, he may have ended up in mine. In fact, his brother did. His brother did end up literally in my neighborhood. What I should like to, that's not Theo, that's Cor, that's the youngest Van Gogh. What I should like to find out is the effect of an intenser blue in the sky. Fromentine and Jerome see the soil of the south as colorless, and a lot of people see it like that. My God, yes. If you take some sand in your hand, if you look at it closely, and also water and also air, they are all colorless, looked at in this way. There's no blue without yellow and without orange. And if you put in blue, then you must put in yellow and orange too, mustn't you? Oh, well, you will tell me what I write to you are only banalities, a handshake in thought. And so he includes those sketches. So we almost at the middle of the month, and this is where he produces, almost the middle of June, when he produces this incredibly balanced, beautiful artwork. It really is a masterstroke. It's really quite something. And in a weird way, you sort of wonder, how did this come about when there was quite a lot of not terribly good executions leading up to this? Because this is really special. I mean, this is like 2 or 3 or 4 levels above, for example, his orchards. It's much better than that, although it is kind of in the same vein as the Langlois Bridge. Anyway, so that this is when he's able to execute that. And then he also paints this, which is stunning as well. Also really like that. This is starting to feel like Vincent van Gogh, whereas up until now, a lot of his other art just feels like stabs in the dark. Yeah, does have an energized quality. Okay, so he says, and by the way, he would get very caught up in the idea of harvests and grass and wheat and all of that. That would be, you know, the reaper, the sower and the reaper. That would preoccupy him for the next 3 summers, this summer and 2 more. Anyway, he says, my dear Theo, I'm dropping you a line, another line as your letter hasn't come yet, but I suppose you thought I would probably be at the beach. Since the rent of the house and the painting of the doors and windows and the purchases of canvases all came at the same time, I've run out. Well, yeah, being on holiday, I'm sure, was part of it too. You'd be doing me a very great kindness if you could send me the money a few days earlier. One does wonder whether on this holiday, you know, does he get some sun on his skin? Does he, is his health being given a bit of a boost? Is his mental health being given a bit of a boost? Is he being energized? Okay, so he goes on to say, I'm working on a landscape with wheat fields, which I think is as good as, say, the White Orchard. So he's quite modest, but he's saying, I think it's quite good. Well, you're right. It is in the same style as the 2 landscapes of the Bitter Montmartre. So it's kind of saying it's similar to that. Well, it's a lot better. But I think it is more robust and rather more stylish. It certainly is. And I have another subject, a farm and some haystacks, which will probably be the pendant. So yeah, I must say now it's getting fun to follow Van Gogh because now his art's really getting good. Now it's really getting to be quite something, right? Now is Van Gogh is becoming Van Gogh, recognizably Van Gogh. And so who is this person? And does he become very optimistic? And I think the answer to that is yes. But does he also become very pessimistic because it's like, why I'm producing such good work, why is it not selling? I'm very curious to know what Gauguin plans to do. I hope he'll be able to come. You will tell me that it's pointless to think about the future, but the painting is progressing slowly, and where that's concerned, you do have to plan ahead. If I sold no more than a few canvases, that would be neither Gauguin's salvation nor mine. To be able to work to order one's life as best one can, and to secure one's existence, one needs a fairly solid basis. If he and I stay here for a long time, our pictures will become more and more individual, precisely because we shall have made a more thorough study of the subjects in this region. And of course, we know where all of this is going to end. Gauguin is going to say, Vincent is nothing but trouble. We are very incompatible. I need to get the hell out of here. And Gauguin had only lived in the Yellow House for 2 months. He lived with Vincent for 2 months, then he had enough. Get me the hell out of here. Theo, send me money. I need a ticket home. And so Vincent, can you see he's really set up for disaster? Anyway, he goes on to say, now that I've made a start in the south, I can hardly conceive of going anywhere else. Better not to do any more moving, just to keep going out into the countryside. And one does wonder if he never went to Orvez, what could he still have produced in all, because there was still so much to do. I mean, if he's produced this now, what could he have produced a year later, 2 years later? And I think in a way being transplanted to Orvez was very unfortunate because you had to start from scratch. You had to get to know another landscape. On the other hand, I think the Arles period complements the Saint-Remy period, complements the Orvez period. They're 3 separate, in a way, not genres, but 3 separate themes in a sense. And I think it really challenges him by being transplanted in that way. He's got to work very hard to, it's almost like writing a true crime story, and then you go from Chris Watts to Casey Anthony, or Casey Anthony to Jodi Arias, by going totally out of this immersive mythos that you've been part of. You now go into another one, and so it tests your ability to, interpret a different reality. You see what I'm saying? Anyway, he says, I'm okay. So he talks about that. Then he says, I'm sure I should have a greater chance of success if I tackled subjects and even business matters on a bigger scale. So can you see he's definitely expanding, he's growing, he's increasing, he's improving. He's not wanting to be confined. And of course, the next year he would be confined at an asylum. He's breaking free, he's becoming unshackled. He says, for that very reason, I'm thinking of working on larger canvases and launching out boldly to the 30 square. These cost me 40 francs a piece here, and taking carriage into account, that isn't expensive. The latest canvas absolutely kills all the others. It is only the still life with the coffee pots and cups and plates in blue and yellow that could stand the comparison with it. It must be because of the drawing. Evolving, as well. So then he goes on to say, I can't help recalling what I've seen of Cézanne's work, because as in The Harvest, which we see at Poitiers, he has brought out the harsh side of Provence so much. It has become very different from what it was in Spring, and yet I certainly have no less love for this countryside. So he's basically saying summer is just as good as spring, I guess, which is already beginning to look scorched. One might say that everything has old gold, bronze, and copper in it, and this, together with the green azure of the white-hot sky, imparts a delicious, exceptionally harmonious color with broken tones a la Delacroix. If Gauguin were willing to join us, it would be, I think, a step forward for us. It would establish us squarely as the openers up of the South, and nobody could argue with that. I must try to achieve the solidity of color that I got in that picture that kills the rest. I remember what Portier used to say, that his Cézanne, seen by themselves, looked like nothing on earth, but that when placed next to the other canvases, they wiped the color out of all the rest. And also that the Cézannes looked good in gold, which implies a brilliant palette. Perhaps I'm therefore on the right track, and I'm getting an eye for the countryside here. That is, I think, a better title, do you agree, than the title that I've used for this video? So I think I'm actually going to quickly, if you'll permit me, I'm going to quickly update the title to that. Perhaps I'm therefore on the right track. Do you agree? Just give me a second. It's one letter too long, so I'm just going to get rid of, turn the and into the squiggle and then that should do it. Oh. I'm going to have to get rid of one more. I'll just do that. Okay. Thanks for your patience, guys. I couldn't actually think of a poll question. I don't know if you guys can think of one. But yeah, I couldn't really think of one. If you can think of a poll a poll. If you guys want to suggest a poll, let me know. Okay, so let's continue. Thanks for your patience. So he says, we'll have to wait and see. This latest picture stands up well to the red surroundings of the bricks with which my studio is paved. When I put it on the floor on this brick red, deep red ground, the color of the picture does not look washed out or blanched. The countryside near A, where Cézanne works, is just the same as here. It is still the crow. When I get back home with my canvas, I say to myself, hello, I've got old Cézanne's very tones. All I mean is that since Cézanne, just like Zola, is so at home in these parts and hence knows them so intimately, one must be making the same mental calculation to arrive at the same tones. It goes without saying that seen side by side, they would be able to go together but not look alike. With a handshake, I hope that you'll be able to write one of these days. Ever yours, Vincent. So can you see that where we are right now, but things seem to be going very well with Vincent. He's very positive. His work is very promising. He seems healthy. He seems in good spirits. He's planning for the future. Right now, in the middle of summer 1888, he's really got the world at his feet. The world is sort of his oyster. It's like, what could go wrong, right? And so again, the question is, what the hell does go wrong? Where do we go from here? And the one thing we know for a fact is that he came to all with syphilis. But the other thing is that he left Paris, living with his brother, socializing a lot, and suddenly he's all on his own in all. He goes to the beach and is by himself. He's by himself every single day. And so that is what's going to accumulate. He's going to feel lonelier and lonelier. And Gauguin is going to say, you know what, I might come next week. Okay, no, I'm coming next month. Sorry, I've changed my mind. I'll come the month after that. And maybe that starts leading Vincent to start drinking because he's starting to become, in a way, emotionally dependent on this fantasy of that and this fairy tale that Gauguin is supposed to help him make come true. And it's kind of like, as long as Gauguin doesn't arrive, his fairy tale can't get moving. And that is what's so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate that Gauguin was such an arsehole, right? Yeah, it was his Achilles heel. So let's go on to the next letter, 12th of June. And can you believe that he has such a colorful painting like that, and he follows that up with this. It's back to the potato eaters. You know what? I actually miss excrement and slime. Let's go back to that. I think that's, you know what, I'm gonna do a Dutch bathroom toilet version of the south of France. Let's do that. And then this actually looks quite exceptional. This is quite cool. Look at that. So you kind of get a sense that he's experimenting, right? This seems kind of incomplete. It's sort of a combination of sketch, paint. Maybe he did this to practice for that one. I don't know. Harvest landscape. Okay. So let's go through this. I think before we go through it, I'm going to show you a couple of additional photos. From all. This is also just the kind of effect that you can expect in all arches, you know, very old this is like the old part of the city, and it's obviously you can't drive a car through here. It's all by bicycle or walking, right? And what else can I show you? This is a view from within the Colosseum overall. So you can kind of see that's the exterior of the Colosseum. Shall I do it like this? That's kind of the circular exterior of the Colosseum. But can you see how you sometimes see that in his paintings? You see that type of building in his paintings of all, that kind of thing. And look how incredible these clouds look. These clouds don't actually look real. If you just combine that and that, it actually looks like a painting. That actually looks like it's not real. These clouds look fake. Or they look, I don't know, they look like someone drew them. You agree? It does look like a painting. Okay. So let's see what else I can show you. This is a nice aerial view of all from the Colosseum. This is from the Colosseum looking down. And there you can just see how kind of romantic it is. You come down and you sit at a cafe and you eat something, drink something, and you kind of a time traveler. You step out of one street to something that was going on 1,000 years ago. You go down another street, and that's where he painted this or that painting. You can see in the distance here, that's the Rhone, and he painted Starry Night over the Rhone. This is the Rhone that he was painting. I was staying across the Rhone, somewhere down, like maybe a kilometer down that way. So not in this area, but yeah, on the other side of the river down that way. And that's also where the bridge is. You can also see, I'm just trying to work out exactly where I am. I think the yellow house, so the yellow house where Vincent was living when he stayed there is actually situated somewhere around here. So this is that space it's like a park with big oak trees, and there's like a bench right here where you could sit and look at the road if you wanted to. And then the yellow house is sort of somewhere here, and then the train sort of crosses over here, somewhere here. If I have my bearings right, it could also be in this space here. Could also be a bit further up. Okay. And then what else can I show you? Oh, so this is the photo I took of where the yellow house used to be. It's not, I took actually a couple of photos, but yeah, that's the photo I took of the yellow house. Didn't really want that pole in it. But there you can see the bridge. No train on it, but the bridge. The yellow house would have been in front of this four-story building, as you can see over there. It would have been in front of it, but it was bombed during the Second World War. Okay. You want to see some more photos? This is just a little bit of a detail. Can you tell what that is? And then, to be honest, I'm not sure if this is where the night cafe was painted. I'm not 100% sure. We'll maybe come back to it, but yeah, I think it is. Okay, so yes, another view of that sculpture. I really liked the way they used modern lighting in a way that didn't interfere with the style of the architecture. Really appreciated that. Okay, and then you've seen this before, but it's a better picture of it. I was trying to look for something that looked like the yellow house, and this was the closest I could find. And there, that lamp has been lit, and you kind of get the idea that that's the kind of thing Van Gogh saw when he went home. That would be the kind of edifice that he maybe saw. Then here's another picture I haven't seen before of the Langlois Bridge. Again, this is not strictly speaking the actual bridge. It was destroyed also it was blown up by the Germans when they left the area. This is the inside of the hospital grounds where he was treated when he lost his ear. So this is where he was sitting when he painted this. And as I say, it's quite ironic that the colors that Van Gogh is famous for, Starry Night, is mostly yellow and blue. Well, this is yellow and blue. It's quite interesting. And then final picture is another bridge that he painted. These steps going up there and then up there and then across there. And at the time, this was a closed bridge, and now it's not anymore. This tree, I think, is quite new, obviously. So you can see there's a bridge going through there. That's still the original bridge that you see over there. The steps are the same. The tree is new, and the bridge, I guess, has been altered in some way. This lamp is also new compared to the one that was, well, whatever that is. Yeah, the other thing missing is you don't really see people coming up and going down. But yeah. So this is the Rhone is, I think, on the other side here, if I remember correctly. The river is on the other side. Okay, I hope you found that worthwhile. We're going to end off with one more letter, and then I'm going to say toodaloo. Sharon Tuck, good to see you. I think I might be able to add you now as a mod. I think you wanted that. Okay, happy. Okay, so let's continue. Let's go back to the letters. So I think we're going to do one or two more letters and then that's it. Okay, dear Theo, I got your telegraph order for 50 francs on Monday. Thanks very much. Only I've not received your letter yet and I'm rather surprised. I've had a letter from Gorgan who says he got a letter from you with 50 francs enclosed. So now Theo has got quite a few artists kind of holding out the begging bowl, right? He says he was touched greatly. I was so touched by the 50 francs you sent me. Thank you so much. In which you said something of the plan. As I've sent you my letter to him, he had not yet received the more definite proposal when he wrote. But he says that he knows from experience because when he was with his friend Laval in Martinique, they managed much better together than when they were alone. So that he quite agreed with me as to the advantages there would be in living together. So you're going to see what happens is Gorgar kind of uses both brothers. Why do I need to go to Vincent if Theo's giving me money anyway, as it is, right? Like if I'm getting money sent to me, why do I need to go to Vincent? And so he kind of plays and manipulates until kind of the last moment. There'll also be times where you'll say to Vincent, won't you please ask your brother to send me some money, kind of thing. Anyway, he says the pains in his bowels still continue, and he seems to me to be very depressed. He speaks, now do you want a depressed dude staying with you? He speaks of some hopes he has of finding a capital of 600,000 francs, wow, to set up as a dealer in Impressionist pictures. So he's talking quite a big game, and that he will explain his plan and would like you to head the enterprise. Seems a bit already like, be careful, guys. I should not be surprised if this hope is a fata morgana, a mirage of destitution. Well, the Van Goghs weren't born yesterday. Anyway, he says the more destitute you are, especially if you are ill, the more you think of such possibilities. So at least he's realistic in saying, okay, that is a bit of a crazy scheme for someone who's got no money. To me, the scheme simply looks like another proof of his breaking down, and would be better to get him away as quickly as possible. He says that when sailors have to move a heavy load or weigh anchor, so as to be able to lift a very heavy weight and to make a huge effort, they all sing together to keep them up to the mark and give them vim. That is just what artists lack. So I should be very much surprised if he's not glad to come. But in addition to the hotel and traveling expenses, there's the doctor's bill as well, so it'll be pretty steep. But I think he ought to leave the debts unpaid, giving some pictures as security if he's coming here, and if the people do not agree to that, to leave the debts as they are, without pictures as security. I was obliged to do the same thing to get to Paris, and though I lost a lot of things, it cannot be helped in a case like this. And it is better to get away no matter how than to go to rack and ruin where you are. I've not gone to Saint Marie. They've finished painting the house, and I've had to pay for that. And then I had to get in a fairly big stock of canvases. So out of 50 francs, I've got 1 louis left, and it is only Tuesday morning. Again, please send me more money, Theo. Okay, Theo, you know what? I've just blown some more. Can you send me some more money? Thanks, Theo. So it was hardly possible for me to go on, and I'm afraid next week will be just as bad. Theo, one thing you can rely on, besides death and taxes, I'm going to be constantly asking you for money. Got it? Cool. By the way, can Gorgan also join in the free-for-all? Okay, cool. So then he says, I was glad to hear that Maria has come to stay with you. If Gorgan would rather take the risk of going into business again, and if he really hopes to do something in Paris, good Lord, let him go. But I think that he would be wise to come here, at least for a rest. There's someone here who's been to Tonkin and came back ill from that delightful place. He has recovered here. I have 2 or 3 new drawings and 2 or 3 new painted studies too. So then he says, what does Mel say? Robbie says, sounds like a con artist. How fast was the mail? I think it was like a day. It was how long a train takes to get from one side of France to the other. So a day, day and a half. Mel says, maybe one day I'll be worthy of the blue highlights. Okay. So he says, one day I went to Tarascon, but unfortunately there was such a blazing sun and so much dust that day that I came back with an empty bag. I've heard of 2 Monticellis in Marseille, a bunch of flowers at 250 francs and some figures. It was that friend of Russell's, McKnight, so the American. What was his name? Dodge McKnight, who had seen them there. I should very much like to go to Marseille sometime. I keep on finding very beautiful and interesting subjects here, and in spite of the worry about the expense, I think that there's a better chance in the south than in the north. If you saw the Camargue and many other places, you would be surprised, just as I was, to find that they're exactly in Racedahl's style. I'm working on a new field, fields green and yellow as far as the eye can reach. I've already drawn it twice. What's he talking about? Okay. Fields green and yellow as far as the eye can reach. yeah, that does look about right. Seems more like fields, yellow and yellow. I'm starting it again as a painting. It is exactly like a Salomon Konink, you know, the pupil of Rembrandt, who painted vast level plains. It also reminds me a bit of a South African artist called Pierneef, who was a contemporary of my great-grandfather. Let's see if we can see some Salomon Konink landscapes. Let's just have a quick look. See if we can see something. Level plains. Okay, this doesn't quite seem right, but let's have a look. The Hermit. Don't quite see the vast level plains yet. Still not seeing it. Still not. Are we going to see any vast level plains? Doesn't look like it. Let's see if we can find something else. Salomon Konink landscape. Okay. Is this what he's talking about? Okay, so that kind of makes sense. If it'll just load. Okay, accept. It's just so tiny. Can you guys see that? It's a little bit tiny, but I guess you can see it's an extensive landscape. Let me show you Pierneef, the way he makes a landscape look really enormous. He takes an ordinary landscape and he makes it look very, very large. I really like his style. I really, really like his style. This is a South African artist. As I say, he was around the same time of my great-grandfather. And can you see how he turns? Can you see how he has a landscape that has one line after another, making it seem much bigger and more extensive than actually in reality? So he's trying to show the magnificence of the landscape. You see that? So let me show you another one. I don't know why it's doing this. I think it's best just to do it this way. So can you see these paintings? Can you see how he really emphasizes the sky? And there are places in South Africa where the trees really do look like that. The trees have a sort of Japanese bonsai look about them. He's got a painting I really like that really looks huge. Is the I think it's view of Table Mountain. I'll see if I can show it to you. But quite beautiful, right? Let's do this as a full image. I just want to quickly show you, I think it's view of Table Mountain. And that's one that I think was, yeah, it's this one. I think it was used in an article I wrote about him for Country Life. So it's this particular painting. And can you see it's this scene? It's this scene over here. Obviously, there were trees when he painted it, but he makes it like this mountain 10 times higher and this distance far further to make it so much more impressive. Let's just see if I can blow it up without losing that perspective. You can't really, it's not that terribly good quality, but can you see what he's trying to do? So you get a little bit of a sense of this in that picture by Van Gogh. In this, you get a little bit of he's making the landscape slightly wider than it actually really is, and it's a little bit of a trick that he's doing. Okay, so let's finish off with this last letter. Where is it? Is it this one? There it is. Okay. Okay, so he says, or is it like Michel or like Jules Dupré, blah, 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 or is it Claude Monet? I'm very curious to know how Gauguin will get on. He says that he disposed of 35,000 worth of impressionist stuff at Durand Rules in his time, that he hopes to do the same for you. So he's talking a very big game, is talking a big confidence game, lots of bluster, but he says, but it is so wretched when your health begins to bother you. I think myself that the most solid asset Gauguin now has is his painting, as now. And the best business he could do his own pictures. Probably he has written you already. I replied to his letter last Saturday. I think it would come very heavy to pay all that he owes and the journey, etc., etc. If Russell bought a picture from him, but he has the house that he is building, which leaves him short of money. I think, however, that I shall write, I think it should be write with one, two with one O, write to that effect. I have to send him something myself for our exchange, and if Gauguin wants to come, then I would ask him quite confidently. It is quite certain that if one could buy his pictures at their present price in exchange for the money given Gauguin, there would be no risk of losing money. I should very much like you to have all these pictures of Martinique. Well, let's do what we can. With a handshake, I hope you'll write soon. Ever yours, Vincent. What is the bust of a woman by Rodin in the salon? It cannot be the bust of Mrs. Russell. He must be working on that now, though. Hasn't my friend Maria a lordly accent? You kind of get the sense that he's really is lonely. You know, he writes the letter and then he has these idle thoughts, which he adds as well. Okay, so let's just look at the next letter, 15th of June. So I'm not going to read this letter, but let's just look at the art. Nothing new by the looks of it. That seems like a sketch similar to that. And so, yeah, so he sketches it and then he paints it. That's also a really nice Van Gogh-y painting, right? Okay, so guys, that's it from me. I was not sure if I was going to do tonight, but it didn't end up going too badly. Just a little bit of an update on my situation. Things have seem to have de-escalated a little, not a lot, but a little. Yeah, so I guess that's good. So far, so good. We'll see. I'm a little worried about my health. I'm just been feeling, I don't know if it's, can you see I'm wearing orange, yes, but I'm also dressed quite warmly tonight. Not quite sure why I'm feeling a little. I don't know if it's I don't know what it is. We'll see. But yeah, maybe it's just I need a good night's rest, and hopefully that's all I need. You can see my eyes aren't as red, so that's something. I have not been sleeping terribly well, so hopefully tonight I will have a good sleep. I did go cycling with my brother today, and I really felt not great. My heart rate was really high, very unusually high, and that's not a good sign. So again, maybe I just need to take it easy. Hopefully that'll be all that's required. We'll see. Your eye looks great. Okay, thanks, Stephanie. Yeah, I've just been under quite a lot of stress, but I mean, you can hear I don't sound sick. I'm not sniffing. I don't really have a sore throat. I just feel a little prickly. You know that feeling? Feel a little bit prickly. Sometimes I feel a bit hot. Sometimes I feel a bit cold. I'm going to try and eat right and try and sleep right, and hopefully that's sufficient. And then also just hope that things that are external stresses just don't get any worse than they already are. We'll see. Thank you, Lisa. That's kind of you. Pizza and Netflix. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I think it's not it's lack of proper sleep. I think that's really it. So I'll try and have a good night's sleep tonight. Hopefully that'll do it. It could also be I trained with my brother on Sunday and I kicked his butt in the 100 meter. We did a 100 meter little race and I kicked his butt. Even though I'm a lot less fit than he is, I hit the wall about 7 seconds before he did, which was a surprise, I think, to both of us. But my body feels a little bit sore from that. Also did a little bit of gym, but what I'm feeling feels like an achiness that's beyond that. It feels a bit like a fluey achiness, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I mean, I'm not. I don't. I feel like I'm on the edge of it. So I've taken, we call it Carenza C, and then hopefully I'll be okay. We'll just see how it goes. Stephanie says Van Gogh daily is a treat. Yeah, so I'll try and be tomorrow, and hopefully tomorrow I'll be all systems go. We'll see. Okay, that's interesting. So how are you feeling today, Stephanie? I do think I need to sleep, and I do think it is stress. Stress is part of it, that's for sure. It is a nasty visitor. Tani says, "You're working like a dog. I was surprised you did a live today." Okay. I'm also a little surprised. I thought I don't really feel up to it. And then I had a bath, and then I thought, okay, I suppose I can do it. So, yeah. Thank you guys for being here. Couldn't have done it without you. And I love the fact that you guys are so enthusiastic and so invested and so what's the word? Consistent as well. I really appreciate that. Thanks, Chelsea. Thank you. Timmy time will help. Okay. Is SMK Volinsky still here? Yvonne says, hugs from all your peaches. Thank you. Hydrate and sleep. I will. Okay. There's one more thing I want to show you, and then I'm going to skedaddle. Have you guys seen this article from the BBC? Italian art experts astonished by David statue uproar in Florida. I know Yvonne knows about this. To those of you who are still at school, cover your eyes. Like if you are, I think, 16 years old or younger, cover your eyes. This is not something that you should be looking at. Okay. So statue of David, and so it's causing like an uproar in Italy, where someone got fired for showing this picture at school, at a Florida school. And so it says the school's principal quit after complaint about a sixth grade art class that included an image of the statue. And there you have what the complaint was about. Cecile Holberg, the director of the Galleria dell'Accademia, has now issued the invitation to the class. The principal should be rewarded, not punished. Talking about the Renaissance without showing the David, an undisputed icon of art and culture, would make no sense. The controversy began when the board of Tallahassee Classical School, a charter school in Florida's state capital, pressured the principal, Hope Carrasquilla, to resign after 3 parents complained about a lesson that included a photo of the 7-foot nude marble statue. The statue, one of the most famous in Western history. It's like, this is one of the most famous statues in Western history. Don't look at it. No, children, don't look at it. You can only see this when you're 18, and preferably not even then. So it depicts a biblical David going to fight Goliath armed only with a sling and his faith in God. The board reportedly targeted the principal because they weren't notified in advance that a nude would be shown. And so what do you think of that? Do you think that shows an understanding of art? Do you think that they are within their rights to say, you know what, I want to protect my child from that? What do you think? So the reaction from Italy was that, well, I actually thought that was fake news. And then he says, a distinction must be made between that and that. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that kind of counter argument? That one thing is that and the other thing is that? So the mayor of Florence, Dario Nardella, has invited the teacher, I guess the one who is the art teacher, to visit the city and works of art. He says, art is civilization, and those who teach it deserve respect. And so what do you guys think of that? What do you think of that? Okay. So yeah, I thought I would share that with you. If you want to read the rest of this article, you're welcome. I did put it on Twitter. I just thought it was quite interesting. Okay, thanks a lot, guys, for joining me. The Team Peachtree Promise continues to be delivering, it appears. I think some of you know what I'm talking about, some of you don't, but that's okay. The Team Peachtree Promise has been fulfilled. But anyway, thanks very much, guys, for joining me. Stephanie, I'm glad you were able to make it as well. Aloha there in Hawaii. I hope to see you. I hope to be back tomorrow. We'll see. Yeah, it's just write so many letters. It's so hard to just move forward, but we are moving forward to some beautiful artworks like the one you see next to me. Unfortunately, I don't have too many more photos of Al. I'm not sure what I was doing. I was only there for 3 days, so I've got a few photos of Saint-Remy that I haven't showed you yet, so I suppose I could show you that. But that's going into 1889. Yeah, I mean, I was there only 3 days. There are only so many photos you can take, you know. So anyway, I hope you're enjoying this adventure, this sort of artistic adventure, and I hope you're feeling the same. You know, it's coming into summer. Look how positive Van Gogh was. I hope you're feeling the same rush of life starting to infect you. But be cautious. Don't believe in fairy tales. You can be optimistic without being kind of dependent on a particular outcome that may not even be very good for you. So try and be hopeful and energetic and have a sense of mission, but also don't let it be too dependent on some kind of fairy tale. I guess that's the lesson to learn here. And also, wherever you are, try and make art of your surroundings, whether it's in your thought process or the way you look at the world or the way you look at yourself or other people. Try and look at the world through different filters: the filter of color, the filter of motion, the filter of emotion, the filter of perspective, all that kind of thing. Okay. Cloisternism is fascinating. I think Robbie's reading The Murder of Vincent van Gogh, and that's where that comes from. We're missing Terry. So, Terry, if you're watching this on Catch Up, I hope you're enjoying it. Gloria says, it's late in South Africa, so long. Yeah, it is late. It's almost 2 a.m, but it's about my bedtime. Mel says, I'm loving these sessions. I will look after myself. Thanks a lot. Deb says, that's so true. I dread Gorgon coming. I get angry all over again. Well, yeah, Gorgon is going to be very, very bad news for for Van Gogh, a very bad influence, and he's going to come out of it scarred for life, literally. I'm not sure if he's going to be more psychologically scarred or more physically scarred, but he's certainly going to be scarred inside and out. Yeah, I think so too. Thanks, Linda. Thanks, Andy, from Early Spring, Scotland. Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, guys, thanks a lot for being here. Take care, and I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.